Picture a world crushed by chaos where hope was a whisper and bravery was scarce. In a land ruled by iron fists and ancient traditions, one woman stood tall to lead her people to freedom. Her name, Deborah, a prophetess, a judge, and a heroine of ancient Israel. This isn't just the tale of a fearless woman, it's the story of how faith, wisdom, and trust in God can shatter every barrier. What hidden truths about Deborah's leadership might surprise you? Stay with us as we unravel the epic saga of this extraordinary biblical figure. Israel was a land in shadows. For 20 years, the people groaned under the brutal rule of Jabin, the Canaanite king. His general Sisera was a name that sparked terror, a ruthless commander wielding an army armed with iron chariots, a weapon so advanced it left the Israelites trembling. These machines of war rolled across the plains, unstoppable, a symbol of Canaan's crushing dominance. But this wasn't just a story of military might, it was the bitter fruit of Israel's disobedience. The people had turned their backs on God, chasing false idols and forsaking the covenant that made them his chosen nation. Their rebellion brought suffering, a cycle of sin and despair that haunted the pages of the book of Judges. Yet, in their darkest hour, the Israelites cried out to God. Their pleas rose like smoke, desperate and raw. And in this moment of hopelessness, God raised up an unexpected champion, Deborah. Deborah was no ordinary woman. A prophetess and the only female judge in the Bible, she defied the norms of a male-dominated world. Her wisdom was legendary, her discernment unmatched. Beneath a palm tree in the hills of Ephraim, between Ramah and Bethel, she held court. People flocked to her, seeking her counsel to settle disputes and her prophetic insight to know God's will. But Deborah was more than a judge. She was a light in a time of spiritual decay. When others wavered, she stood firm, her faith a beacon against the fear and apathy that gripped Israel. What's shocking about this era? The men of Israel were frozen by fear. Not one dared to challenge Sisera's iron grip. The warriors, the leaders, all stood silent, unwilling to face the Canaanite war machine. But Deborah, she answered God's call when courage seemed lost. Her role as prophetess and judge wasn't about seizing power, it was about obedience to God's mission. Humble yet resolute, she trusted in divine guidance, stepping into the void where others feared to tread. As the people's cries grew louder, Deborah knew the time for action had come. God's plan for deliverance was stirring, and she was chosen to spark the flame of hope in a broken nation. Israel's darkest days were about to give way to a dawn of divine victory, led not by might, but by the unshakable faith of a woman who dared to believe. Under the shade of her palm tree, Deborah received a vision from God, a clear, powerful command to break Canaan's chains. The Lord spoke, "Summon Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali. He will lead an army to Mount Tabor. I will draw Sisera and his chariots to the Kishon River and deliver them into your hands." It was a daring plan. Sisera's chariots were the pinnacle of military might, a force no army could match, yet God's promise carried the weight of certainty. Deborah called for Barak, a warrior with potential but not yet bold enough to act. When he arrived, she delivered God's message with unshakable conviction. "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you," she declared. "Gather men from Naphtali and Zebulun, march to Mount Tabor and face Sisera. God will give you victory." Barak listened, but doubt clouded his heart. His response? Unexpected. "If you go with me, I'll go. But if you don't..." His words revealed his fear, not just of Sisera, but of trusting God's promise fully. He needed Deborah's presence, a living reminder of God's guidance. Deborah's reply was steady but pointed. "I will go with you, but because of your hesitation, the honor of this victory will not be yours. The Lord will hand Sisera over to a woman." Her words were both a challenge and a prophecy, hinting at the shocking twist awaiting Israel. Together, Deborah and Barak rallied the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun. Deborah's faith had united courage in the people, stirring them from despair. She spoke of God's past faithfulness, his power to save and his promise to fight for them. Barak, strengthened by her resolve, gathered an army of 10,000 men. They marched to Mount Tabor, each step a defiance of fear, each moment a choice to trust God's plan despite the odds. This moment reveals a powerful truth. Faith and fear often coexist. Barak's doubt didn't disqualify him. God used him still. Deborah's steadfastness shows that even when we waver, God honors obedience, however imperfect. The stage was set for a battle that would defy logic and prove God's unmatched power. At Mount Tabor, Barak's army stood ready, gazing down at Sisera's forces. The Canaanite army stretched across the plains, their 900 iron chariots gleaming under the sun, a terrifying sight. Barak's men, armed with simple weapons, seemed no match for this war machine, but Deborah stood firm, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Charge!" she cried. "This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has he not gone before you?" With her words ringing in their ears, Barak led his men in a bold assault down the mountain. Sisera, caught off guard, hadn't expected such defiance. His army, poised for intimidation, faltered as the Israelites charged. Then the miracle unfolded. The skies darkened and a torrent of rain poured down. The Kishon River swelled, turning the plains into a muddy trap. Sisera's mighty chariots, once unstoppable, sank into the mire. Horses reared in panic, soldiers stumbled, and the Canaanite ranks dissolved into chaos. This was no accident. God himself had turned nature into a weapon. The Israelites, fueled by divine intervention, fought with newfound fury. Barak's forces struck hard, cutting through Sisera's army with relentless precision. As his soldiers fell, Sisera fled on foot, abandoning his chariot, his pride crumbling. The man who had terrorized Israel was now a fugitive, running for his life. The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. The Israelites, once cowed by fear, now roared in triumph. Sisera's army was wiped out. Not a single man remained. Barak surveyed the muddy battlefield, the evidence of God's deliverance clear in the wreckage. This was no human victory. It was a divine triumph, orchestrated by the Lord and ignited by Deborah's faith. But the story wasn't over. Sisera's escape set the stage for a final, shocking act, one that would fulfill Deborah's prophecy and seal this victory as a testament to God's unpredictable ways. As the battlefield quieted, Sisera, the once mighty general, staggered through the wilderness, his army destroyed, his pride shattered. Desperate, he sought refuge in the tent of Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite, an ally of King Jabin. Jael greeted him with a warm smile, her voice calm and inviting. "Come, my lord," she said, "rest here. You're safe." Exhausted, Sisera entered her tent, unaware of the danger lurking behind her kindness. Jael covered him with a blanket, offering comfort. "I'm thirsty," Sisera rasped. "Please, some water." Jael went further, giving him milk, a soothing gesture that eased his guard. As he drank, exhaustion overtook him. "Stand at the tent's entrance," he mumbled. "If anyone asks, say no one's here." Confident in his ally's loyalty, Sisera drifted into a deep sleep. But Jael had other plans. With quiet resolve, she took a tent peg and a hammer, simple tools of her trade, now instruments of justice. Approaching the sleeping general, she acted with swift precision. In one brutal strike, she drove the peg through Sisera's temple, pinning him to the ground. The mighty commander, who had terrorized Israel for decades, was dead, felled not by a warrior, but by a woman. Barak arrived soon after, still hunting Sisera. Jael met him outside, her voice steady. "Come," she said, "I'll show you the man you seek." Inside, Barak saw Sisera's lifeless body, the peg through his skull, a chilling fulfillment of Deborah's prophecy. The honor of victory belonged not to Barak but to Jael, a woman God chose to deliver his people. Jael's courage and Deborah's faith crushed Jabin's oppression. Emboldened, Israel rose to overthrow their Canaanite rulers. The victory was complete, not by human strength, but through God's chosen vessels, two women who dared to act. Deborah, the prophetess and judge, stood before her people to celebrate this triumph. Her voice soared in a song of praise, a hymn that would echo through history. "Hear, O kings, listen, O rulers. I will sing to the Lord, the God of Israel." Her words wove a vivid tapestry of Israel's struggle and God's deliverance. She sang of the dark days when fear ruled, when villages stood empty and highways were deserted. "Until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel," she proclaimed. Her song praised the brave Barak and the tribes who fought, while calling out those who stayed behind. She recounted the battle, how God sent rain to trap Sisera's chariots, how the Kishon River swept away the enemy. "The stars fought from heaven," she sang, painting a picture of divine power. And she honored Jael, the unlikely heroine. "Most blessed is Jael, wife of Heber. With a tent peg she struck Sisera, shattering his power." Deborah's song wasn't just a victory cry, it was a call to remember. God's deliverance often comes through the unexpected. The peace that followed was hard-won, a testament to his faithfulness. "Let those who love the Lord shine like the sun," she sang, "but let his enemies fall into darkness." Israel rested in peace for 40 years, their land healed by a victory forged not by swords but by faith. Deborah's story is a clarion call. God uses the bold, the humble, the unlikely. She wasn't a warrior, yet her courage rallied an army. She didn't fight, yet her faith moved heaven itself. Through her, Barak found strength, Jael found purpose, and Israel found freedom. This is Deborah's legacy, a reminder that faith and obedience can topple any giant. No matter the odds, no matter the barriers, God's plans prevail. Her story challenges us to rise above fear, to trust his call, and to embrace his power in the darkest times. If this tale ignited your spirit, countless other stories await. Join us to uncover the Bible's hidden gems through vivid storytelling and timeless truths. Subscribe, share, and let's dive deeper into the power of God's Word together.